Hello and welcome to The Strangest Gig I've Ever Played. True tales from the studio and the stage. I'm your host, Chris J. Norwood. On the podcast with us today is one Jay Sustain. Jay is a DJ based here out of Dallas, and I gotta be honest, I really enjoyed this conversation. It was really cool getting to dive into a part of the scene that I don't know much about. Jay was a lot of fun and had some great stories, so without further ado, let's get to it. Hey there, boys and girls. Again, my name is Chris J. Norwood, and this is the Strangest Gig Podcast. Before we get to Jay, I just want to let you know about a couple exciting things. My lovely and talented wife, Carrie Norwood, has a brand new single out now, everywhere, where you get your streaming music. It's called Flying to Tennessee. She and I co-wrote it together. And then when we went into the studio about last year into Audio Dallas and recorded it, and it is beautiful. Please go check it out. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, all the things. Just search Carrie Norwood or Flying to Tennessee and you should find it. It's awesome. It's really beautiful and I'm super proud of it and proud of her. Also, we both have a show coming up. Thursday, April 20th. My new band, the Knockdown Dragout, will be playing. It's going to be the whole big band. There's going to be 10 of us, 4 horns, whole big rhythm section. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. If you like good music, good soul, rhythm and blues music, please come check us out. We're really excited about it. Again, Thursday, April 20th. Sundown at Granada. You can get your tickets there. And then Carrie and I will be opening the set with some duo music. She'll be playing her new single. And it's going to be a fun night. You're definitely going to want to come see it. And finally, if you're a fan of this podcast, smash that subscribe, heart that like, do all the things that you got to do to make sure you're in the know for whenever new episodes come out. I try to drop new episodes the third Tuesday of every month. And yeah, I want you to know when they come out. We've got a few exciting things in the works for the podcast, and I just want to say thank you for your auditory patronage. So tell a friend, spread the word, let them know about the Strangest Gig podcast. If you're a musician and you've had some of your own strange gigs, hit me up. Maybe I'll have you on the show. You never know. Again, on the podcast today is one Jay Sustain. Like I said in the intro, super fun guy, great conversation. I don't want to waste any time, so let's do it. Well, Jay Sustain, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I'm looking forward to this conversation. It's really fun. My
pleasure.
Yeah, man. So let's get into it. Tell me now about your current gig, what you got going on currently.
All right. I DJ quite a bit, so I've got a bi-weekly or bi-monthly. Which is it, by the way? If it's twice a month, is it bi-monthly?
I think it's both.
Okay.
So I think bi-monthly means twice a month, and it also means every 2 months, which is super confusing.
And then bi-weekly, isn't that also every other week?
Yes.
Okay.
Very confusing.
Yeah, we've had this conversation, my girlfriend and I. Anyway, I'm doing it's at Thunderbird Station called Thursday Night Therapy, and it's every 2 weeks. Basically, it's a musical format, 80s, 90s, new wave, retro, and it's not a nightclub, it's just a social gathering that we have. So, if you're into the 80s and 90s and new wave stuff, you can come by and see us over there.
And that's at, what'd you say?
Thunderbird Station.
Thunderbird Station. Okay.
Yeah. It's over. It's owned by Kim Finch, the same woman that owns Double Wide, Single Wide. It's right there in the neighborhood. It's a restaurant, outdoor patio, so you can eat there as well. And then I'm also just starting a new thing in March called No Wave Wednesdays. It's also 80s new wave. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be downtown at The Loft at Ye Old Scarlet Pumpernickel Tavern.
Okay. That sounds old school.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And you're DJing, you said, right?
I'm DJing, yeah.
How long have you been DJing?
It's a really good question. I feel like from the earliest times that you could go tape to tape or, I did that a lot. I would say I was about 17 when I did my first public DJ gig. I'm 45 now, so math.
Yeah, so I definitely want to talk, because I have questions. I'm not like super familiar, but I've always been intrigued by like the DJ scene. Do you DJ with turntable, like with with vinyl?
I'm also intrigued by the scene. I have no idea what it's doing.
Okay, sure.
What it thinks it is, but so I did go through a vinyl phase. So in the DJ world, there's a lot of purists.
Yeah.
People that don't think you're a DJ unless you do it a certain way.
Right.
I'm under the more like technology is amazing and there's so many new tools to your advantage. Even the artists themselves are building the tools into the music and into the sale of the music. And so I embrace the tools.
Yeah.
I do love vinyl. I still buy vinyl and collect it, but I don't DJ with it. There's 100 reasons why, mainly quality and just when you get to the club, the environment, it's very different. There's a lot going on. There's vibrations. There's a piece of cotton falling from the ceiling.
Sure.
It's not ideal.
Bad electricity. Yeah.
So many things. You bump it yourself.
Yeah.
It's so many variables that I don't really want to worry about.
Yeah.
So I've ridden the wave of the new digital XDJ, where you convert your vinyl or CDs or whatever into a digital file, and there you go. You pull it up on a XDJ. So that's as far as the hardware goes. As far as the scene goes, if you're a professional DJ, you're really just chasing the next paid gig.
Okay.
I mean, you're looking for a paid gig that'll let you do what you want or something similar to what you want,
Then why? So tell me what interested you about DJing and what it is about that kind of captivates you?
That's a good question as well. I remember being a little kid and standing up in the back seat of my mom's car and her yelling at me to sit down, and hearing the breakdown of Kool and the Gang, and in my mind singing the words of another song, and I would sing it, and my mom would say, "Oh wow, those do go well together." And from the earliest ages, I always remember finding complimentary songs.
Right.
And when we got into, you remember the old days of making your own mixtape, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. I would do that, and I would try to kind of DJ and hit the pause button at the break of one song and, pick it back up to the next. And I wish I could find those. I don't know where they're at, but I'm sure there are some really cool mixtapes out there that I did. And so that would probably be the earliest interest in DJing. But I will say that Club Numbers, DJ Wes, age 16, I was just, enamored by who this guy was and what he was doing and what are those songs and why can't I hear them on the radio? It just blew me away. And I just kind of became enamored. I was fanboying over what was happening inside the nightclub.
Yeah. So talk now about like DJing as it relates to like the early hip hop scene. Is that something you're kind of involved in at all, or are there like different factions of that scene?
There's really, so I'd like to think, DJs all wear a badge and we love each other. I know the greatest hip hop DJs in all of Dallas, and we're all friends. Yeah. Even though I'm not into that.
Okay, sure.
I'm into house music, but they do the same. They come to my gigs and are like, "Yeah, this is dope." So we support each other. There's definitely scenes defined by genre, for sure. Like hip hop night is hip hop night, 80s night is 80s night, techno night or whatnot. Dallas has a pretty solid house music scene, and those people stick together. They seem to be older than most scenes that I've seen around America, but good people and into it. The DJs stick together and they usually scratch each other's back too. Like if there's, hey, I need such and such night and you're good at that, I'll give you that gig, for the most part.
And then something else I've always wondered, because like, when you're in a band, sometimes you got to do the gigs to make money. So you have like the original music band thing, and then you have what I would call like the party band thing, where you're playing weddings and corporate events. And I imagine there's the same thing for DJs. You could do, I won't call it maybe not original per se, but it's just you're doing your thing as opposed to like playing a bar mitzvah. You know what I mean? Like how does that factor into it? So,
there's so many types of gigs, right? There's like, hey, I'm having my birthday party and we don't have a budget. And so you're like, all right, I'll do it. And you'll play just about whatever, pretty much what they want, and you're willing to do just whatever.
And at that point, are you just press and play on a song or letting it run?
Yeah, pretty much. You're finding a track that you think is cool, like, oh, I just bought this last week, I'm playing it, and then your friend's like, hey, I want to hear some, whatever, Polish Ambassador, so you do that. Yeah. You're just finding songs and hitting play, and you'll do it for free because it's a friend. Yeah. And then there's, the project of love, which is like, we're doing this because we want it and there's probably no money in it. And so Thursday Night Therapy, the thing I brought up earlier, that is a labor of love for sure. And you know, we made graphics, and it's a every other week event.
Sure.
And we actually left one venue because of violence that had occurred at the venue. And I just was like, we're listening to 80s music. I'm not trying to get people killed or involved in.
Yeah.
So and it has cost us to keep the event going, but there's been a little bit of reciprocal money coming back from it.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of gig. And then there's the kind of gig where they say, hey man, the club owner's got $500 and you can do what you want for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a dream job. I
Sure.
mean, you know, that's like, holy cow, I can do what I want. And they're like, absolutely, man. He's open to whatever your sound is. And you know,
What would you consider your sound?
that's a good question too. If you let me do whatever I want, I really like deep electronic house music.
Okay.
Like I like it smooth, I like it slow, 120 beats per minute. Sometimes I don't really like there being a kick there.
Yeah.
You know, just rhythmic patterns. I really love that. I played at Deep Element Art Company this last Saturday. I had a 1-day preparation time. Apparently the opener got sick and they just called me, and I was like, man. And so, you know, I went and bought $10 worth of new stuff, but also looked through my 20 years worth of music and found this really cool. And that was great because I got to be paid at openers, you know, money and do what I wanted to do. And that one felt really great. Mm-hmm. And then if you get a live recording out of it, I mean, you know, what more could you ask for?
Yeah,
that's great. A situation like that.
Do you play any other instruments?
I do. I play keys.
Okay.
A little bit of drums, mainly keys. Yeah, there was always a piano in my house growing up, and so keys, and then as it relates to production as well, I play keys.
Have you done keys in any like more full band stuff, or is it mostly just the DJ?
My first band ever was a Tool cover band.
Okay, yeah.
Called MAS, Mind Altering Substance.
Yeah.
And I played keyboards in that.
Perfect.
And a lot of it was guitar keyboards, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, I played guitar in a Tool cover band on keys.
Right on. That's cool. And you said you're a producer as well. How long have you done that?
2005 was my first production. I think I'd probably spent a year or so before that, you know, just goofing around. But 2005 was the first time I ever put anything out, produced and put something out. Yeah, almost 20 years on that. Ironically, the very first thing that ever got put out was a competition that I won. It was a Sony Acid Pro remix competition.
Oh, cool.
For DJ Diffuse from Austin, Texas. And just did a cool what I thought was tribal. Now I look back and I'm like, wow, that's a bunch of bongo loops. But at the time, I thought it was this tribally sounding whatchamacallit. And it won the contest, got put out on a CD, and that was 2005.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I got one more question. Have you ever read Questlove's book?
I've not, but you're like the third person that's asked me that. It must really be.
It's really good. It's really fascinating. But he talks about, you know, him as a DJ and just how a DJ can really like, you know, affect the mood and the vibe of a crowd and like lift them up and get them going, or like bring it down and make everything chill. Absolutely.
I play club things and you can. There's different types of 80s per se. You got the bubblegum 80s, and then you've got that front 242 Netzareb kind of dark, gothy. And so when people say, well, I just like the 80s, well, you got to be careful. You have to read the room. You have to know. And there's a certain level of energy that you want to drop it off on purpose, and then there's times you want to bring it up. I don't really dance that much in the club. I'm more just a hangout guy, but I know people who are committed to the dance, and they tell me, bro, I need a break after 22 minutes. Like, you know, build it up, crescendo, and then slow it down or give me a turnover. And that's really interesting because I always thought it was just keep going, and, you know, crescendo at the end of the night, but actually the dancers want to stop.
Are you putting a lot of pre-thought into like kind of crafting your sets and that, or you kind of plus reading the room kind of thing?
Both. Yeah. If I have a 2-hour set, I will create a 4-hour playlist basically, so that I know what I'm choosing from and I have directions that I could go.
Okay.
But if it's 6 hours and it's just do what you want, I don't come in. I just come in with everything, all the music. And you just play a couple songs and you see what they dance to, and if people aren't liking it, you drastically switch it up, like play something crazy and see how they respond to that. Sometimes people are feeling zany and they want silly stuff. They want goofy, you know.
What is because I kind of my whole scene mostly has been kind of singer-songwriter stuff, so I know what it's like to get up on stage and just bomb and have nobody in the crowd dig it or be interested or worse.
Yeah.
What does that look like for a DJ? What does it look like to bomb? I'm not saying you have, but I'm sure you've known other people.
I have. You know, every promoter has a vision in their mind of you know, the club full and the smoke machines going off and but it's not up to you the day of the show when people come or if they come. It could rain, the street could be blocked off, just so many variables. And as a DJ, you get up there and you want to do your best and you're looking at an empty room and there's no crowd to read. There's nothing. It's absolutely happened to me. I actually threw an event in New Orleans, thought I'd worked everything out, talked to the police, blah, blah, blah. The very last minute, there was something that made it to where the street was closed and people couldn't get to me for like a mile.
No.
Yeah, and just, you know, the amount of variables on the promotion in really, you know, the DJ has to deal with it.
Yeah.
I've played at Deep Elm Art Company one night, opening for a really great band, and I just their name has slipped my mind right now. I'll probably shout it out here in a second, but I was excited. I listened to their stuff. They were kind of soul funk, and I'm like, yeah, I got the perfect, like, you know,
that's cool.
set. And it was raining really bad that day, and we were like, nobody's gonna come, and people came, but you know, they were running inside, and so there's probably 100 people in there, but we're kind of trapped inside this thunderstorm moment. And I'm DJing just like it would be good, and I get to this like build up moment where it's like bah, 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 bah. And I look down and all the power's off on the stage.
No.
And I'm like, oh my God. And people are like, you killed it. And they're just, you know, literally.
They're waiting for the drop.
Come to find out, a tree in the backyard had fallen and just taken out the club. They still had lights at the bar, but all the stage and everything was out. And I'm like, wow, okay. So to me, that was a literal bomb of an event, because we didn't think it would work anyway. And then for the people that managed to get inside, just lost everything. What was cool is the band came out, brought his snare drum, guitar, and they went ahead and just did acoustic out in the middle of the crowd.
That's really
pretty
cool.
neat. The guys from Austin, I'll think of them in a minute.
That's super cool. You talked a little bit before we started recording about your dad, and so you kind of come from a musical family.
Yeah, I do. My dad is he started as a minister, but he got into songwriting, you know, sat at the piano and whatnot. And apparently other people liked his gospel style and would purchase his music, and he became a songwriter.
That's cool.
He wrote a lot for Tammy Faye Baker. Was probably her principal songwriter, and appeared on the PTL show for years and years as a fundraiser and singer-songwriter. Yeah,
that's cool. So how did that affect you growing up, kind of being around music? Did that inform what you do now, or?
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said before, there was a piano in my house at all times, and sometimes it was like a grand piano, sometimes it was a little upright, but there was always one there because my dad. And so I always played stuff. I'd listen to the radio and just, you know, play on top of it. So absolutely, it had an effect. As far as the Christian gospel, country gospel style, I never liked that music. I didn't really understand it. It just sounded weird to me. But I'm sure what I do sounds completely weird to them. You know?
I get that. I would imagine it's you know, being around the Bakers and that thing. It's quite a bit different from what you're doing now.
Yeah, I was mainly raised by my mom. I didn't go to my dad till I was 13, but I would still spend time with my dad.
Yeah, sure.
And I remember when I was 7 or 8 going to Heritage USA, the big thing out in North Carolina, their big you know, Christian theme park or whatnot. And Tammy was really cool that day. My dad was kind of a jerk, and I had 10 balloons tied to my hand, and the balloons kept getting in his face. It's actually on television. There's a video somewhere of this.
Oh, really?
The balloon kept getting in his face, and so he yanked it off of my arm and let it go inside the 1,000-foot studio, and the crowd booed him. They were like, "Oh, boo, Mike!" You know, and so at the end, Tammy Faye said, So first of all, we walk off the stage and there's so many balloons that it would carry my body away.
Yeah.
They had them, and they tied more onto my arm. And then Tammy said, "We got you the biggest balloon ever," and took me outside to the Heritage USA hot air balloon.
Oh wow!
That was drug. And so, me and Jamie Charles, Jay, and someone else were towed by a truck for the rest of the day in this balloon.
That's fun.
Yeah.
What a great memory.
Yeah, it is a cool memory. And it's a lot of stuff with the Bakers. I really learned to enjoy Tammy in the later years. When I lived in Atlanta, her son Jay was there, and she would come and visit, and we had a good time just going out. She's a really silly person,
Really?
and very boisterous and loud. You can't go to a restaurant with Tammy without everyone knowing that she's there.
Let's get into. Tell me now about your the strangest gig you've ever played, whether that's DJing or playing in a Tool cover band or producing in the studio, whatever it is.
I feel like it's such a subjective term. Most of what I've done is strange. I was talking to Andrew Sherman. He was on your show. And he said, "Man, you play at the church. That's pretty strange." And I'm like, well, I don't know. It's just a gig,
Yeah.
But it's perception to everybody.
Do you still play at the church?
I do.
sometimes? Yeah.
I just played this last Sunday.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. And again, coming up in April.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's a great gig. I mean, I think what's weird to other people is the culture and the fashion. I mean, you can definitely just put some googly eyes on your chest and go out in public. And it's a cool place. I mean, it's edgy. It's what it's always been. It's a goth club.
Right.
So, there's nothing weird about it, though. It certainly isn't my strangest gig.
How long have they been? How long has the church been around? Because they've been around a long
so
time.
I think it's 28 years right now. And, obviously most of that was spent at 2424 Swiss,
Right.
the Lizard Lounge, and then now they're at Club It'll Do. But the night still exists, and Lizard Lounge Presents is still a company that, has major DJs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
As far as the strangest gig, you and I talked a little bit off air. I did a wedding for a friend of a friend. I didn't really know the bride and groom, but I knew the bridesmaid.
Yeah.
And just a typical wedding, nice people. The only thing I had to change was the husband wanted more country, and so added some country in there, and everything's going great. And
so quickly, what's it like when you're doing those gigs and you're playing? Because you had mentioned like country may not be your thing.
Don't know much about it.
Yeah.
For me, it's just I don't want to play the wrong thing. Like
Sure.
Some country might be considered, racy for people. I don't really know.
Yeah, so you're having to do your research beforehand.
Yeah, exactly.
And, figure
kind
out
of
what,
put those there, and you're like, ooh, this one doesn't sound like something, and then these do, and they usually do give you like 6 or 7 artists.
And then you go off of that.
You go off of that. Spotify is really great at giving you recommendations.
Sure.
Obviously, if you put 10 artists in a playlist, it tells you here's 10 more that probably same thing. So you just add, you adapt. It's not a big deal. It's a paid gig. Usually weddings pay pretty good, so you're willing to do whatever to make these people happy. And it was a good day. It was hot outside. People were coming around. Well, it got to a point where people were kind of eating cake and just milling around, and so I was doing that like classic 80s, older 90s stuff, and then we're going to get into the dance, right?
Yeah.
And so I played In Excess. I could never remember this song, but I looked it up last night. In Excess, Never Tear You Apart.
Okay, yeah.
Beautiful song,
yeah,
right?
Great.
You were there, 2 worlds collided, now nothing can tear us apart.
That's right.
This is a wedding song.
Yes.
The tension was palpable. People just started walking away and
walking off the dance floor?
Yeah, and just walking away from me. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, I didn't think it was a song. I thought maybe something else was going on in the room. And the friend that I was doing it for was a bridesmaid, and she comes over and is like, what the? And I'm like, what did I do? And she's like, bro, stop the song right now. And I'm like, okay. So I grabbed the mic and I was like, man, thank you guys for celebrating the life of these guys, and get back out here on the dance floor and let's do something funky. And I put on like the Funky Chicken or just some random thing. And she's like, bro, the bride's previous husband committed suicide, and that was their dance at her last wedding.
Oh, no. Wow. That's tense.
I was stunned. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to react. I just looked at the bride and kind of mouthed like, I'm so sorry.
How would you have known?
Exactly, and that's what I said. And in the end, the bride and groom were super cool, and they tipped me, and the groom was like, you would have never known.
Yeah.
But there was a good like hour of just, bro,
trying to break it down and get the vibe back.
The bride actually left like the area for a while.
Oh, no.
And I was like, so I joke with people, the day I ruined a wedding with NXS. It wasn't completely ruined forever, but it was definitely a moment they'll never forget. And,
you gave them a memorable wedding.
And my friend was like, bro, you didn't know. And I'm like, how would I have known?
Yeah,
you never
no
said
way.
this, In fact, there was another NXS song in their playlist, like Change or whatever. And so I would have never known. Or don't.
That seems like information that should have been offered up
beforehand. First of all, didn't know the guy had committed suicide by any means. I had heard that day that she was divorced, but that's...
You didn't know why,
That's neither here nor there for the gig.
Sure,
It makes no difference. Yeah.
Wow, that's rough.
Probably the toughest thing I've ever... And, it's one of those things where you load up, you're in the car, you got the check, the gig is over, and then you're like, stupid, what are you doing? Yeah, punching yourself. Like, what have I done? Yeah.
That's great. I love
weddings
that one.
are tough, and to be honest, I really don't like doing weddings, even though they pay really well, because of things like that. You can ruin a whole day over something you didn't know.
Yeah, it is very high stakes, it seems.
I'll tell the security one.
Yeah, I want to hear that one.
Yeah, it's not so much a gig I played, but I was working. I was on the clock. Working for Deep Elm Art Company, a security guy, and that night they had Charlie XCX.
Yeah.
Pop star, and she was opening for Taylor Swift. So when the word got out that she was doing a pop-up at Deep Elm Art Company, the kids, the people just flocked.
Yeah. Artco. I was about to ask. That seems like a smaller venue for her.
It absolutely is. It's no way. They just performed at American Airlines Center, and there's no way that I think that they can max cap at $650 or something like that. Plus, John is a John LaRue, the owner of Arco, is an all ages venue.
Yeah,
pays a lot of money to have that standard, so we could accommodate the people that wanted to come there.
Sure,
but it was going to be a lot of them. Yes. So I believe 1,000 people or more showed up at the club, and we were able to get them all in. But the manager of Charlie XCX came to me, introduced herself, really nice lady, and was very adamant that absolutely nobody on the stage and nobody in the green room. And I said, even with the wristbands? And she said, no, that's for the meet and greet. Nobody in the green room.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, yeah, no problem. Done.
Yeah.
Charlie XCX gets there, pats me on the shoulder. I go back, take a picture with her, say hi. She tells me, please don't let anyone on the stage. I said, yeah, no problem. So I make eye contact with the other security guy, and I'm letting him know, like, this is the line right here.
Yeah.
Nobody crosses, not anybody. And he's thumbs up. We're good to go. So, I'm there doing my thing. She comes out, crowd surges. Everybody's excited. She does her main songs.
And you said there are 1,000 people in that room?
Well, there's max cap. It's probably 600.
600.
Yeah.
But that's a full room.
There's a ton of people outside still, like, And that's another thing is I'm watching the side door. It keeps popping open. I have to pull it shut.
Yeah.
There's people are just swarming the building.
Yeah, that's a full room for sure.
Totally. And I'm not really listening or looking to her. I'm more or less watching the crowd and the door, head on a swivel left and right. And out of the corner of my right eye, I see this leg pop up onto like the monitor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's this guy doing? And he lifts himself up. And I'm like, no, he's coming onto the stage.
Yeah.
Right? So I literally run up there, pretty much help him onto the stage and put him in like a full Nelson, and direct his body, and we go towards the edge. As we get to the edge, I heard a bunch of people going like, no. But I'm like, I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care whose friend it is or whatever, And next thing I know, I get this pat on my shoulder, and I look, and it's Charlie XCX, and she goes, it's fine, I asked him. And I'm like, bro.
See, that's another situation where they could have let you know beforehand.
That's not the way you get on the stage either, bro. You need to come up the stairs. We have stairs right here on the side. Anyway, again, I turned beet red, just felt totally embarrassed and stunned at, I'm a useless security guy here. Like, this is I'm overreacting, which is you definitely don't want to do. And it was terrible. At the end, again, it was cool. Charlie XCX came and laughed with me at the end. She kind of like grabbed my arm, like, ah. And
so who's the guy getting on stage? You said
he was a rapper. He was a Dallas rapper that apparently knew her or did a song with her, and she saw him in the crowd and was like, "Oh my God, Donuts, get up here!"
Yeah.
And so, I didn't see that interaction, and so as he climbed on the front of the stage, I'm like, "Oh hell no!"
Yeah, right.
The cool thing is, as soon as I let him go, she handed him the mic, and he just went. He was like, "Hey,
yeah,
and the crowd like just and
That's
I'm like,
cool.
"Oh man."
That's cool.
Still to this day don't know who that guy was. But like, if you're listening, buddy, I'm so sorry. I was just doing my job.
I love that.
Yeah.
Tell me now about your dream gig. What does a dream gig look like for a DJ?
That's a really great question.
Or as a producer, whatever that means to you.
What's funny is the gigs that you do play that you're like, wow, this is a dream gig, are ones that you never would have thought of. So my band Smoking with Strangers got asked to open last year for Chromeo.
Wow.
And I was like that.
That's cool, yeah.
What do we do? Who,
what was the venue?
It was the Arlington backyard connected to the stadium.
Oh, so there
was
the Rangers.
so there was a baseball game going on during our thing. That's a weird event too. It's like when you're in the middle of a intimate song and then all of a sudden it's like, bah, 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 bah.
Yeah.
You're like, what was that?
The fireworks are going off for the home runs.
You can hear all that stuff like in the middle of your song, and you're like, wow, okay, that's odd. Dream gig though, I would say, opening for my idols. I studied under DJ Sasha, and Sasha and Digweed were like my every album type thing. I probably got 10 signed albums by him in my studio. Cool. So it's like, I would say being asked to open for DJ Sasha would probably be just a dream come true. Now watch it be one of those gigs where they only pay like $50 and a bottle of water, but it doesn't, there's that trade.
That's right.
That trade that you're willing to do it. I have played some really great gigs and made lots of money on some really great gigs, but they certainly weren't my dream job.
Sure.
And like I said, there's the times that you get those, it's shocking and it's exciting, but you're always in the back of your mind like, I wish I could do what I want opening for my guy,
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'd love to probably DJ for more touring or traveling DJs. That'd be fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Man, Jay Sustain, thank you so much this has been such a fun conversation for me.
Yeah,
it's like
thanks.
I said, DJing is just not a scene that I knew much about. So I was really interested, and this is super cool.
Yeah.
So how can people find out about you and what you've got going on? Do you have a website, socials?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I own jsustain.com, and it just points to my stuff. Also Instagram, Jay Sustain, Facebook, Jay Sustain. And then I've got several groups and events that, all that's tied together.
Yeah.
So any of the events, and then I'm in a band called Smoking with Strangers, but you can find all that on Jay Sustain.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Jay, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. There he goes, Jay Sustain. Y'all be sure to check him out. Hit up Thunderbird Station for his Thursday night therapy. I'm sure it's a lot of fun. You may see me there. Also, don't forget, Thursday, April 20th, Sundown at Granada, Chris J. Norwood and the Knockdown Dragout with an opening set by Carrie Norwood. Y'all check out Carrie's new single, Flying to Tennessee. It's awesome. You can find out more info at my socials at Chris J. Norwood or chrisjnorwood.com. Thank you for listening to the Strangest Gig podcast. Hope you'll come back next month as well. We'll have a new exciting guest, more fun stories. But in the meantime, if you find yourself ruining a wedding with NXS, just remember, gig's a gig, right?